All right, guys. My name is Dr. Eric Petty. I represent the 65 movement. Still talking about thou shalt eat your way out. And I want to talk about a couple statements that you hear on a regular basis. If you hear somebody say eat healthier or watch what you eat, I want to really talk about what that means. And I got to this because I guess I did a consult with a farmer yesterday. He's in fairly poor health in terms of like his heart, his kidneys, and different things going on. And when you're sitting on a farm talking to someone in their 80s who's farmed all their life, his wife was into farming all her life. Some of the stuff I'm talking about, especially coming from a plant-based perspective, is like, come on, man. Like, they've been raising chickens and turkeys all their life, cows, raised on that stuff. You would think that we wouldn't be able to connect, but we really connected. At the end of the visit, he bought a book. They took my card. They want to look at some of the videos. For all I know, they might end up being clients in the future with my senior success coaching program. But we really talked about what his physicians and his medical team had been telling him. We really talked about salt. They told him to decrease his salt, and I would argue that salt is very overrated. There's a lot of people who are lowering their salt intake. They're not putting any salt on their food, but they're still taking in more sodium per day than they should. And that's because the sodium is already packed into the foods, especially the meats and the processed foods. But we talked about, everybody telling him he has to watch what he eats and has to eat healthier. But what you have to understand, when people give you statements like that have no details, that have no real objectives to them, that are not measurable, that are not quantifiable, either that person is, one, incompetent, two, they really don't have your best interests at heart, or you're dealing with someone who I don't. They're stuck in the maze with you. They're in the same exact place with you, I guess is the best way to say it. I talk about this being a maze, and I talk about how we are just bouncing from wall to wall in a maze. So if you look back and you really study the history of the food industry, you see that they keep demonizing specific things decade after decade. So one decade is we can't eat fat. Everything needs to be low fat. And then the next decade, they come back and say, oh no, you should eat fat. You just have to watch saturated fats. Then one year they'll tell you you can't eat salt. And salt is the demon and it makes everything bad. But then they say, okay, salt's okay. Then you'll hear you got to go low sugar. We got to go sugar-free everything, and we'll do these artificial sugars, and that's the right thing to do. And then the next decade, you'll hear, oh, these artificial sugars are just as bad or worse. And diet soda and all these artificial sweetened foods and drinks are awful for you. This is a maze. And this maze loves to keep you confused. So now people don't know whether they should eat salt. They don't know whether they can eat fat. They don't know whether they should go with artificial sugars. They don't know whether to eat diet. They don't know what to eat. So especially the people I deal with on a regular basis, the 80 and 70-year-olds, they just get to a point where they say, whatever, we're going to eat what we want to eat. We're just going to eat whatever. You got to die from something. And that's where our conversation went. And unfortunately, this man is in a position where he realistically can die from the food that he's been eating. He has a long list of heart issues that are continuing to get worse, and he has a cardiologist, he has a nephrologist, he has a primary care physician, but none of these people have given him the information that I gave him yesterday within 1 hour as to how to get his heart healthier. I hope he follows the plan that we kind of set out and continues to stay in contact with me, because I'm sure if he does, his heart condition will get better. His heart status will get better. But I want y'all to look at his situation and understand that if you're depending on this system, if you're depending on the people in this maze who are telling you to eat healthier and watch what you eat and don't put any salt on your food and eat lean meats, if you're depending on those people to keep you healthy, especially if you're depending on those people to get you out of a rut that you might already be in with your heart, with diabetes, with high blood pressure, with high cholesterol, all I can tell you is you're going to look up one day and say, man, I've been in this maze for a long time. The answer is right here in this Thou Shalt Eat Your Way Out book. The stuff that we are struggling with as Americans is so simple. It's the simple. I mean, within an hour, I taught a farmer and a farmer's wife who probably, high school education, exactly what he was doing that was causing his heart conditions and his kidney conditions and all of the various medical conditions he was having. And he had a clear path of, this is what I need to do and these things will get better. And I put my hand up and I swore on Christ and I swore on my grandma. I swore on everything because I'm that sure that I'm right about what he needs to do. The question is will he do it? The question for you is, will you buy this book and not get to the point where he's at? Or if you're already where he's at, will you buy this book and follow some of the principles that I'm talking about in that book? Because I know that you can eat your way out. I know that this farmer can eat his way out. I know that all of us can eat our way out. But the question is, will we choose to? Because this system has done a really good job from the time that we were 2 years old in pushing us in a direction that makes sense for the food industry, but doesn't make sense for our bodies. One of the things I talk about in the book, and one of the things I talk to all of my clients and patients about, is when you're 2 years old and you've hopefully been nursing with your mother for a year and a half or whatever it is, as soon as that pediatrician puts you on cow milk, you have to ask yourself, okay, well, why did we do that? Why a cow that's a totally different species than you, has no similarities to you as a human? Why, when you come off of what is probably the best nutrient-filled liquid on this earth, which is a woman's breast milk, why do you come off of that and go to a cow's milk, which doesn't even sit on the same playing field as breast milk, as a human woman's breast milk? So why do we make that transition? What sense did that make for us? And the answer is, it didn't make any sense for us as humans, but it does make sense for farmers. It does make sense for people who will impregnate a cow every 3 months and continue to make more cows so they can make more milk and more steak and more leather and all that stuff. It makes sense for them, but it doesn't make sense for you, but you're going to do it anyway because it's the norm. We have these norms in this country that we all just get in line and we follow. And the other norm in this country is you're going to die from heart disease. If you don't die from heart disease, you're going to die from cancer. If you don't die from cancer, you're going to die from a stroke or diabetes. Or you can go look at the leading causes for death in America. And when you look at those leading causes for death in America, I also want you to look at the causes for them. I outline in this book very clearly what causes all of these leading causes of death in America. And when you see that, you understand the need to eat your way out. And then you got to figure out how, and that's what I talk about in there. So this guy has tried a lot of stuff to get his heart back in order. He spent thousands of dollars. He spent hours of time. And for $14.99, actually for $11.99, because they were seniors, and seniors get a 20% discount. For $11.99, he bought a book that I believe will take him all the way to where he needs to go. And you can do the same for $14.99. You can get this book. You can be on your way to eating your way out, and you can take some of these silly cultural norms that are just have just taken us into a maze and left us there to die. You can take some of those norms and say, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. I'm getting myself out of this maze. I'm going to live for a long, long time. I'm going to serve God's purpose for my life. I'm going to write my story when I become age 65, and I'm going to enjoy myself while I'm serving God's purpose for my life. Or you can be like most Americans, where they hit 65 and they may have 5 to 10 good years left before the arthritis takes over, before the heart disease takes over, before the cancer jumps in, before they're just too tired to go anywhere. And then you look back and you say, I lived this whole life just to get 5 to 10 years of which I could do what I want. And to me, that's a shame. So I'm going to keep talking about this. I'm going to keep preaching this till the day I die. I'm going to write more books. I'm going to have different subjects as I go along, but I'm never going to stop talking about this because it's an absolute shame when I see a 72-year-old whose only calendar events is doctor's appointments and their highlight is going to Walmart. That's just a shame. All right, God bless y'all. 65book.com, www.65book.com. You can get everything you need there. God bless.